Are you looking for a mobile game to actually hold your attention? Then go check out our MMOByte mobile channel and see if there's something there that interests you. So this month I thought I'd do something a little different. People are always so caught up with what the best MMORPG is that we often forget that the smaller, more obscure titles have a certain charm, a certain je ne sais quoi that isn't often replicated in newer games. With this in mind, I went ahead and sifted through, yikes, like 1,400 videos I believe are on the channel right now to find 13 MMORPGs that I believe are obscure enough to warrant further inspection. These games are by no means the best MMORPG, the most aesthetically beautiful MMORPG, nor do they have the best combat or anything of the like. They're just worth taking another look at, especially if you're bored for whatever reason. So here we are, 13 obscure free-to-play MMORPGs that you can go ahead and try if you're bored. What better way to start this list off than with perhaps one of the most unique, innovative MMOs pretty much ever released? Yep. ATLANTICA doesn't look unique in any capacity. It's your traditional mid to late 2000s carbon copy Asian MMO. Graphically, the game looks, pretty subpar, but that isn't where the game actually shines. Where most MMOs have you create your character, play through the game with that character, leveling and ultimately gearing yourself to become the OP hero of your very own story, ATLANTICA has you level, gear, and customize an entire party of them. Throughout your journey, you come across various NPCs to recruit into your party. You can level them, you can gear them up like you would yourself, and then you deploy them in an interesting turn-based combat system. If you've ever played JRPGs like the Suikoden games, Star Ocean, the Tales of games, or I guess even Final Fantasy, then you'll recognize the turn-based system right away. However, unlike the aforementioned games, ATLANTICA has you deploy your characters in a 3x3 grid with the battle cycling through enemy and ally turns respectively. It's something I believe that is worth testing out purely if you're a fan of older JRPGs. There's a certain nostalgia to it that I've never really felt anywhere else. Man, I played FLYFF way back when it was still popular and had several active servers and was published by G-Potato. The grind was absolutely horrendous back then. It took me so damn long to hit level cap. I was grinding away at that game for literal months just to hit level 50. And the game was difficult, ridiculously difficult. I remember going around getting 2-3 shot by monsters whenever I attempted to do quests more than a level or 2 above me. At the time, FLYFF was the only game I had come across that had flight. It allowed you to mount a flying mount and then take off into the skies. While flying in MMOs these days is much more common, back here it wasn't. When I first got my mount and had the ability to actually fly, it felt amazing. Seeing the world from a completely different perspective like that was something that I'd never experienced, and honestly, even though the game has definitely aged, like it looks very dated by today's standards, I have yet to get that same feeling from flight in an MMO. RF Online is the only sci-fi MMORPG on this list, and perhaps one of a handful of sci-fi MMORPGs in general that still have any semblance of a population. And I use that term lightly, as RF's population is, well, okay, let's use this analogy. Imagine a densely populated forest, filled with lush trees and wildlife. RF is a desert. There are no trees, no animals, not even any water. But the desert is still pretty to look at and explore, just like RF is. Well, fun to explore anyway. You can tell at first glance that the game is old. For a game released way back in 2004 though, it holds up particularly well. Characters look surprisingly good, and mechanics present in much newer titles, mechanics and features like obtaining and completing quests long distance. RF doesn't really do anything innovative, but if you're interested in trying out a sci-fi MMO and games like Warframe or PSO2 aren't quite doing it for you, then I would recommend at least testing this out. The difficulty is out of this world. Yes, Void ELSWORD, aka the private server alternative to the official ELSWORD MMO. ELSWORD is probably one of the only successful anime-themed side-scrolling brawler-type MMOs out there, with MapleStory and Dungeon Fighter probably being the only two real contenders. The amount of customization of your character in ELSWORD is possibly the most extensive I've seen outside of, I guess, something like Ragnarok Online. Every hero has several classes they can become, and have several stages of advancement. As an example, let's take ELSWORD here, the character that the game is named after. He begins as a knight. After hitting level 15, he can become a sword knight, a magic knight, or a sheath knight. Yes, I didn't come up with these names. Each of these classes have a second, a third, and a fourth class advancement associated with them, totaling 12 subclasses. So yeah, you can see how deep this can really go. Add on to that the outdoor content and instance dungeons, you got yourself an almost one-of-a-kind game. Again though, I do want to make it clear that Void ELSWORD is the better choice if you're looking to try ELSWORD out. Official ELSWORD just isn't. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to play through Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen on the PS3 or PS4, but I have, and I've spent hundreds of hours in it. However, while playing it, one thing became very apparent to me, that this would work so much better as an MMO, or heck, even as a multiplayer RPG with some co-op involved. Unfortunately, that dream never really came to fruition until I came across Dragon's Dogma Online, an MMORPG based off of the Dragon's Dogma game. I think. Maybe loosely adapted from, or something. I'm not entirely certain of its history. Dragon's Dogma Online provided me with something that I hadn't experienced in an MMO before: interactable environments. If you go through older footage we recorded, you'll see us engaging with our surroundings and even the enemies themselves. There was nothing quite as exhilarating as scaling that giant ogre, stabbing him in the head, and then smacking him with my shield, then making a getaway by grappling onto the nearby building. This is the kind of gameplay I feel like MMOs are missing. This is the kind of innovation I wish was made in the genre, but is disappointingly absent. And having a little pawn that I get to make follow me around everywhere and customize was a nice addition as well. Makes playing the game less, lonely. Plus, you can have them occupy the position of monster punching bag in your stead. I've played through my fair share of Eastern MMOs, and LOONG is probably one of the few that have left a lasting impression on me. It was released way back in 2009, and to me, it feels like the game that Revelation Online and Moonlight Blade were based off of. They're probably not, but both Revelation and Moonlight Blade use a hybrid tab-target action combat system, and LOONG kinda did as well. Well, I mean, like, it used less of one, but the resemblance between the three games is actually a little uncanny. The gameplay doesn't really stand out, and the graphics, although not bad for a 2009 MMO, aren't all that impressive. The expansive world and the freedom it gives you to explore, though, is, well, I guess probably comparable to Perfect World. There we go, the game is like Perfect World, but with a fun weapon system providing us with a unique, diverse selection of classes to play with. Things out of the ordinary. Have you ever wanted to be the very best, like no one ever was? Oh, wait, oops, wrong enemy, my bad. Yeah, I get those mixed up sometimes. Let me try this again. Have you ever wanted to be similar to the very best, like only one other thing has ever been? Then you're in luck, as Digimon Masters Online is here to meet those expectations. The game is set in the not-so-distant future, I think, or maybe it's set in the present day, but a fantasy version of the present day. You go out, you obtain eggs of Digimon, you hatch them, you train them to become your weapons of mass destruction, and ultimately bring down your wrath upon everything and everyone else. I mean, at the end of the day, the game is a pretty generic MMO in terms of what it is and what it offers, but it's set in a Digimon setting and allows players to hatch and train their very own Digimon. Unfortunately, it doesn't really have that large of a population, but then again, Digimon never really reached the acclaim of Pokemon, so that's understandable. Like ATLANTICA, GRANADO ESPADA is probably one of the most unique MMOs out there. Again, you play through the game as a character you create, you take quests from, and you complete quests for potential party members. As you make progress through the game, you unlock new characters to add to your party, level, and gear up. Combat gives you the freedom to control where each of your party members go and what skills they use, with battles being, at times, very difficult. One thing I learned while playing was that strategy seemed to be key to making it out of battles alive, especially when you tackle encounters that are higher than you are. It also has one of the most beautiful graphic styles out there, an era in history that I wish I could have experienced at least once. Do you want to be the very best? Well, wait, no, I already used that joke. But for real, that's probably one of the closest games that I could say Riders of Icarus resembles. I mean, like, not overall, but the main selling point of the game anyway. See, while graphically Riders of Icarus looks pretty damn good, especially considering when it was released, the game is, at least pertaining to its gameplay, very uninspired. Interestingly though, it has one of the best Pokemon-esque features I've come across in an MMO outside of Dragomon Hunter, which is shut down, and Bless Online, which is shutting down. You can essentially tame and train the majority of creatures, both common and rare, to create the ultimate team of monstrous pets with which to ride. Yep. A lot of them are actually mounts. Since you're capable of riding your mount, flying was obviously going to play a part in this. Interestingly enough, Riders of Icarus allows for complete aerial combat, something that's not often found in the genre. There's nothing quite like soaring through the skies, raining down destruction on your enemies. If you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, then you're gonna love Lord of the Rings Online, or at least I'd think you would, but the game's population is so incredibly lacking considering the gargantuan success of the movie trilogy. Both of them. I mean, the game doesn't really offer much in the way of unique gameplay mechanics or features that aren't already prevalent in every other MMO, but what it does offer is a solid MMO set on Middle-earth. So if playing through the game with a small group of friends and experiencing a giant Lord of the Rings inspired MMO world sounds like fun to you, then yeah, good time to try it out. Okay, so admittedly, I may not have made it all that far through Wizard 101, but I get it recommended to me like every other week. So obviously you guys enjoy it quite immensely, or you're all screwing with me. Either way, Wizard 101 is like a magical version of World of Warcraft with turn-based combat that has you utilize various cards to duel monsters and other players in, like, weird battles. I mean, it was weird for me. It was really weird, like, enemies summoned creatures, Wiggy and I summoned creatures, and we did battle with cards. I don't know. If you ever wanted to be a wizard or play a 3D Yu-Gi-Oh game, then this might be for you. Combat may have been a little on the weird side for me, but overall I can definitely say that I had a lot of fun playing through it, and I would recommend it, even if only for a good laugh and something lighthearted. With an R, ARCHERAGE, not ARCHERAGE by Tryon or GameGo now since they bought Tryon out. ARCHERAGE is the private server for ARCHERAGE, and I would recommend playing it above the official GameGo version 10 times over. Now, ARCHERAGE itself was a giant when it released, millions of players, the potential to be the largest release in the genre that wasn't pay to play like WoW or Final Fantasy XIV, but that ended up not really panning out all too well. It offered so many things that most games released prior to it didn't though. Actual addicting faction vs faction PvP content, ridiculously large open worlds to explore and quest in, and an interesting naval system, just to name a few. You could sail the oceans, you could do battle with other players atop your ship, you could raid other ships, murder people, and end up in jail. I'm not kidding, ARCHERAGE literally had it all. And the housing system, oh my god. If this game was handled by a better company, it could have potentially been so damn good. Thankfully though, the ARCHERAGE private server is significantly less pay to win and is on an earlier, much more fun version of the game. Seriously, if you're looking for a game that A, looks good, B, plays good, and C, is generally pretty damn good, then the private server is the place to be. My very first MMORPG ever, not kidding. Man, I don't even know what to say about this. Like, it's old. Yeah, I played this back when I was a teenager and I'm in my late 20s now. I still go back though on occasion to play for a few weeks because to me, it is still that addicting. It's pretty much completely open world. You can travel around the entire continent you're on without a single loading screen. To date, I would say that this is still probably my favorite anime MMORPG, being one of the most difficult yet satisfying grinds I have ever done. I'm not even kidding, I spent 2 whole years playing this game. Its combat, its PvP, its scaling, difficulty, and progression is something that takes time and effort to push through. This is by no means an easy game, at all. Like, it is not for the weak-hearted. You need balls of steel to make it to endgame and play competitively. And there we have it, 13 obscure MMORPGs that I have liked up to this point in my life that I know don't get the kind of recognition or attention I feel they should. Again, these are not in any way the best MMORPGs, so do not get the wrong idea. I think that these are games you should definitely consider trying out, especially if you're bored. Worst case scenario, you waste a little time trying out something new. Best case, you actually have some fun. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all next time. Peace!